Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're sort of pushing aside the motivational posters, the big goal setting meetings, and we're diving into something far more powerful.
Yeah.
We're looking at the foundational science, getting these remarkable results through tiny, almost atomic changes.
Right.
You've sent us a ton of sources, research, articles, stories, and our mission today is to pull out a practical blueprint for you, how to build good habits, and maybe more importantly, how to break down the bad ones.
Exactly. It's about shifting the underlying systems.
hmm
Because just relying on willpower, I mean, we all know that's just not going to work long term.
That's the core idea, isn't it? We've been taught that real change has to be this huge, dramatic thing.
Yeah, this radical shift. But the evidence, it just doesn't support that. Lasting change is really the sum of hundreds of tiny decisions. And the author of this material, he knows that from a place of just genuine physical devastation.
It starts with an origin story that is, it's hard to believe. In high school, this aspiring baseball player gets hit directly in the face with a baseball bat.
Yeah. And the impact. It resulted in multiple skull fractures, crushed his nose. It put him in a medically induced coma.
Wow.
And the description of the recovery is just, it's stark. He wakes up with temporary amnesia. He thinks it's 1998, but it's actually 2002. Names the wrong president.
That's terrifying.
He had double vision for weeks, couldn't drive for 8 months because of seizure risk, and his physical therapy was literally relearning basic coordination, like practicing how to walk in a straight line.
So you go from this elite athlete track to relearning how to walk. And then comes the brutal reality check. A year later, he gets cut from the varsity baseball team.
Right. Relegated to junior varsity. After all that work, he was actually worse than before the injury.
And that's the perfect setup for this whole system, isn't it?
It is. He realized there was no single heroic moment. There was no movie montage.
Yeah.
The eventual outcome, becoming the top male athlete at his university and academic All-American, it was just the sum of a long series of tiny breakthroughs.
He had to start small because he literally couldn't do anything big. Okay, so let's connect that personal story to the bigger picture. We always hear about setting goals. But the sources point out something fascinating. Successful and unsuccessful people, they often have the exact same goals.
Right. It's what they call the goal paradox. Every Olympic athlete wants the gold medal. Every startup founder wants a successful business. The goal doesn't separate them.
So what does?
The system.
Mhm.
It's the system of continuous small improvements they use every single day. The goals give you direction, sure, but the systems are what actually get you there.
And this is where the math gets really, really exciting, this idea of marginal gains.
Yeah.
If you get just 1% better every single day, by the end of the year, you're not 1% better, you're not 365% better, you are 37 times better.
It's exponential. It's an explosion of progress. But, and this is important, it cuts both ways.
Oh, right, the negative compounding.
Exactly. Habits are the compounding interest of self-improvement. But that interest can work against you, getting 1% worse every day. Through, negative self-talk, procrastination. Those tiny slips build up into a huge problem.
And for a real-world example of this in action, you can't beat the British cycling story.
It's the perfect case study. Before Sir Dave Brailsford, their reputation was just mediocrity. For a century, 1 gold medal since 1908. 0 Tour de France wins in 110 years.
It was so bad that a top bike manufacturer wouldn't even sell them bikes. They were afraid it would damage their brand. It was an institutional failure. So Brailsford comes in with this really simple philosophy, the aggregation of marginal gains. He wasn't looking for one big fix.
No. He looked for 1% improvements in literally everything.
But how does changing a bike seat actually lead to winning the Tour de France? I mean, that detail seems so absurdly small.
That's the beauty of it. They redesigned the seats for better comfort. That's a 1% gain. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for a slightly better grip. Another 1% gain.
Electrically heated overshorts.
Right, to keep muscle temperature perfect. They even hired a surgeon to teach the riders the absolute best way to wash their hands to cut down on colds.
My favorite detail, the one that really shows the obsession, was painting the inside of the team truck white.
Why would they do that?
Because the mechanics could spot the tiniest speck of dust on that white floor, dust that might get into the gears and degrade performance by a fraction of a percent.
It's just microscopic.
Yeah.
But it removed a point of friction.
And the results, they speak for themselves. 5 years later at the 2008 Olympics, they just dominate. They win 60% of the gold medals.
And the Tour de France. 5 victories in 6 years. It was a complete transformation, all built on Hundreds of these tiny, almost negligible efforts.
But it's not instant. The sources warn about this gap between effort and reward, right? They call it the valley of disappointment.
Yes, exactly, the graph analogy. We think progress should be this nice, straight, upward line. Right. But what actually happens is an exponential curve.
Yeah.
It feels agonizingly flat for months, maybe even years. You feel like you're putting in all this effort and getting nothing.
It's the stonecutter, isn't it?
It is. He hammers the rock 100 times. Nothing. Not a crack. But on the 101st blow, it splits in two.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the last blow that did it.
It was all the ones that came before. You just have to be patient enough to get to that 101st hit.
So, okay. We accept it's about tiny improvements. We accept we need patience. How do we actually install a new habit? We start with the first law. Make it obvious. And this seems counterintuitive, right? Because most of our habits, good and bad, are totally unconscious.
You're on autopilot.
Completely. Like the story of the retail clerk who at the end of a transaction just automatically reached for a customer's actual credit card and cut it in half.
No.
Yes. Because the routine of end of sale, cut up gift card was so ingrained it took over. It was non-conscious.
That's a perfect example of habits hijacking your brain. So to fight that, you have to increase your awareness. The technique here is called the habit scorecard.
Right. You take a day, you list everything you do, wake up, check phone, brush teeth, and you label each one good, plus, bad, or neutral.
It just forces you to see what you're actually doing.
Once you name it, you can start to change it. And this brings up a huge point. This isn't about motivation. We look at disciplined people and think they have more willpower. But that's not it. They're just better at designing their lives to avoid temptation. They're masters of environment design. They have to use heroic willpower less often.
Because they've made the right choice. The easy, obvious choice.
Exactly. The study at Massachusetts General Hospital is a textbook example of this. Choice architecture.
They didn't give lectures or hand out flyers. They just moved the drinks around in the cafeteria.
That's it. They took bottled water from, some hidden fridge and put it right next to every cash register and food station where the soda used to be.
And over 3 months.
Without talking to a single person. Soda sales dropped by 11.4%.
Wait, over 11% just by moving a bottle? That's almost unsettling how much our environment controls us without us even realizing it.
It shows how powerful obvious cues are. It's why stores put things at eye level. It's why they use those end-of-aisle displays. The sources say 45% of Coca-Cola sales come from those specific, highly visible racks.
You're making the desired action unavoidable. I love the simple personal story from the author about eating more fruit. He just moved the apples from the crisper drawer where they're hidden to a big bowl on the counter, and suddenly he's eating an apple a day. Not willpower, just proximity. So if you have awareness and you've made the cue obvious, the next barrier is always the effort involved. And that takes us right to the third law, make it easy.
Yeah.
And this is where we have to distinguish between action and motion.
Well, this is the big one.
Yeah, for anyone who spends all their time researching the perfect workout instead of actually working out, motion is planning, learning. It feels productive.
But it produces no outcome. Action is the behavior that actually gets you a result. The photography class study is perfect here.
Right, they split the class into 2 groups.
Yep. The quality group was graded on creating one single perfect photo. The quantity group was graded on the sheer volume of photos they took.
And the result?
The quantity group produced all the best photos.
Wow.
They were forced to just do the work, to experiment, make mistakes, learn, and repeat. The quality group just theorized about perfection and ended up with very little to show for it. Mastery comes from repetition.
This ties right into the law of least effort. Our brains are wired to conserve energy. We're sort of strategically lazy.
We are. We gravitate to the path of least resistance. It's even baked into history. The sources mention that agriculture spread 2 to 3 times faster east-west across Eurasia than north-south across the Americas.
Why?
Consistent climate. It took less effort to grow the same crops along the same latitude. Less effort meant faster adoption.
So if high motivation is like trying to force water through a kinked hose, the real solution is to just unkink the hose.
You got it. Reduce the friction. We see this everywhere. In Japanese lean production, they redesigned workspaces just to eliminate wasted movement, and the payoff was huge.
Like in 1974, when service calls for American-made TVs were 5 times more common than for Japanese ones.
Purely because of better process design.
Yeah.
And modern services, they thrive on this. Meal delivery, ride-sharing, dating apps, they all work because they remove friction from a complicated process.
They make it ridiculously easy.
It even works on a civic level. The British government wanted to get more people to pay their taxes on time. They boosted the response rate from 19.2% to 23.4%.
Oh.
By removing one single click, they linked directly to the form instead of a page where you had to download the form first.
One click. That's a massive difference. So the ultimate way to make it easy is to prime your environment for what's next, like Oswald Knuckles' strategy of resetting the room.
Right. He uses the end of one habit to prepare for the next one. So when he finishes watching TV, he puts the remote back, he arranges the pillows. The goal isn't just to clean up, it's to make sure that tomorrow, sitting down to watch TV is effortless. Zero activation energy. Okay, so that brings us to the fourth law. Make it satisfying. We have to deal with the fact that our brains are wired for immediate rewards, not long-term payoffs. Absolutely. The cardinal rule of behavior change is this. Behaviors that are followed by satisfying consequences get repeated. Pleasure is a signal to the brain that says, hey, remember this, do this again.
Which is why that public health project in Karachi, Pakistan was so clever. They were trying to get people to wash their hands more. Everyone knew it was important, but nobody was doing it.
Because the reward, not getting sick, weeks from now, was way too distant. So their solution was brilliant. They introduced a premium soap.
That just felt good to use.
Exactly. It foamed up really nicely. It smelled great. That immediate sensory pleasure made the act of hand washing satisfying.
It gave them the immediate reward that the health benefit couldn't.
And the results were just stunning, a 52% drop in diarrhea. It's the same reason Wrigley adds flavor to gum, or why toothpaste has mint. The mint doesn't make your teeth cleaner, but it gives you that immediate clean mouth feeling. It's satisfying.
But what about avoidance habits? Like, if your goal is no frivolous spending, when you don't buy the coffee, there's no immediate reward.
That's the challenge, right? The solution is to make the avoidance visible and rewarding. Create an artificial immediate reward.
Wow.
You could label a savings account leather jacket, and every time you skip buying that coffee, you immediately transfer the $5 you saved into that account.
So you get a little dopamine hit from watching the balance go up. You're making the non-action satisfying.
And this is why habit tracking is so powerful. It gives you immediate, visible proof of your progress.
Like the stockbreaker, Trent Dewsmid, and his paperclip strategy.
Classic example. He'd start each day with 120 paperclips in one jar. And after every single sales call, he'd move one clip over to an empty jar.
And he wouldn't stop until the first jar was empty.
That visual progress, seeing that chain of clips grow, that reinforced the behavior. It helped him build a $5 million book of business in 18 months. He was tracking his effort, not his results.
Okay, let's shift to the advanced tactics. Once you get the 4 laws, the next level is figuring out where to apply them, finding the right game to play.
Yeah, we have to talk about genes. Genes predispose us, but they don't predetermine our fate. We all have built-in advantages. You can see it in the bodies of elite athletes.
The contrast between Michael Phelps, the swimmer, and Hicham El Guerrouj, the runner, is just wild.
It is. They have the same pant inseam length, despite a big height difference. Phelps has a long torso and short legs, perfect for swimming. El Guerrouj has the opposite, perfect for running. Success comes from picking a game where your unique traits are an advantage.
And that applies to our mental traits, too, which often line up with the big 5 personality traits.
Right. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And these have biological roots.
So if you're naturally high in conscientiousness, for example, using a habit scorecard might be inherently easier for you. Your brain is already wired for that kind of order.
Exactly. And someone high in neuroticism might be more sensitive to negative cues, making stress-related habits harder to break. So you stop forcing yourself into habits that go against your grain, and instead you find habits that align with your nature.
But that requires some trial and error, right? The explore-exploit trade-off.
You have to go through a period of exploration first, trying lots of different things. And only after you've explored do you shift to exploitation, which is doubling down on the best thing you've found. So you have to ask yourself, what feels like fun to me, but looks like work to other people? What makes me lose track of time? That's where you'll find your sweet spot. And if you find you can't win by being better, the advanced move is to win by being different.
Like Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he wasn't the world's best artist. He wasn't the world's funniest comedian.
But he combined those average skills with his very specific background in corporate life. And that unique combination meant he had basically no competition. He won by being the only one, not by being the best.
So that's the whole system. 1% improvement is the engine. Making it obvious and easy is the track. And making it satisfying is the fuel.
It's a really powerful framework. But before we wrap up, there's a critical warning we have to talk about. A danger in all this tracking and measurement. This is Goodhart's law, and it's a brilliant, provocative thought for you to take away. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. It's the failure mode of the whole system. You start optimizing for the number instead of the actual purpose. You chase your step count instead of improving your actual health. Or schools teach to the test instead of teaching critical thinking.
It's so important to remember that we overvalue what we can easily measure, and we undervalue the things we can't, like wisdom, curiosity, connection. Just because you can't put a number on it doesn't mean it isn't profoundly important.
The numbers should guide you, but they can't be the entire destination. So as you step away from this deep dive, we'll leave you with this final thought. What valuable, unmeasurable habit, the one that really enhances your joy or your wisdom, are you going to start building today?